or other advertisers. This program is sponsored by Sue Minahan.
Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken heart and soul consciousness. Come journey with us exploring the meaningfulness of astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
You're muted.
Oh, rats. Well, the music, thank you very much. Let's rebeat. Okay, I'm Sue. This is Talk Cosmos, February 8th. And it's starting off a signature of huge events, celestial events. We have in a week the solar eclipse in Aquarius that also spearheads the new Lunar New Year of the fire horse, which is an electric bridge between the past and the present. Let's get started. We'll begin. This is the second week with the moon energy.
Talk Cosmos explores the journey from the dark new moon to the full moon's blossomed brilliance. In this second week of the month, we look at the moon, our emotional anchor, as this personal planet weaves the past into the present through our memories, feelings, and habits. To decode this month's lunar beats shaping our world, let's meet the astrologers who will connect the moon's emotional story to our lives here on Earth.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
I'm Amanda Pierce. I'm a soul-centered astrologer, blending intuition into my practice. I believe the universe is always working for our highest good and seek to empower my clients in our readings. I teach a 4-week series of empowerment-based meditation classes that connect you deeper into your own intuition and innate power. I work in communications with a passion for employee experience. I also have a BA in psychology. I'm passionate about healing and enjoy helping others create new realities and shift old paradigms.
And like the Sufi poet Rumi says,
you are the entire ocean in a drop.
Hi, there you are.
So good to see you, Sue. So happy to be here with everyone.
It is, I am too. And just for our audience to know that it will be Amanda and myself, this wonderful sessions of looking at the moon. John has other personal engagements and explorations. And of course, we wish him the best. He's a longtime buddy and been so special having him. But here we are. It's a one-to-one. So yeah. Hi.
Hi. And the three of us, you, me, and John all traveled to see the solar eclipse, the Great American Solar Eclipse. We had a road trip to Idaho, and that was a lot of fun. So sad that he's not here to talk about eclipses with us, but really excited to kind of dive into this.
Yes, and it is about 8 years ago. So really, it's many returns involved. And in a sense, isn't this like the eclipse? Because just as though I was muted and wasn't heard, that's really what the eclipse does. It just stops things. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And such as it does shift gears where your landscape of life changes, such as John going on to other other directions.
Yeah, it really was an interesting experience being in that solar eclipse. And we were out in
Hot Springs.
the wilds of Idaho, and there was, lots of bugs chirping around. But once that moon went in front of the sun, it became completely silent, and it's a really interesting experience if you haven't
It's
had that.
ethereal. Yes, it is so amazing. Yeah. And when it bursts light again, everybody, because we were in a group of people, Gemini Brett led a group, and it was in the Hot Springs area and then went into Idaho for the exact eclipse. There was a burst of joy. And I was just astounded by that. It was organic. No, everybody was so thrilled. It was beyond any comprehension of logic. It was just an involuntary explosion of rejuvenation.
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
It's very powerful on a visceral level, more than you would expect it to be. So these eclipses do have power, and they're quite, they have quite a big effect for us.
Indeed. And we'll get to the timing because we can all tune in whether we experience it physically or not. It's affecting the entire globe. May we have thank you very much. Thank you, David. The solar eclipse, it's 28 degrees, 50 minutes, Aquarius, on the 17th of February in a week. And for the general mean time will be just at noon, a minute after noon, 12 o'clock. And for the East Coast, it'll be 5 hours earlier at 7:01 a.m. On the East Coast, 4:02 a.m. because they're 3 hours difference. And here in Hawaii, where I am, it'll be 2 a.m. because winter, we're only 2 hours difference. These are the Pacific times that, just to give a landing mark on it, it's an annular eclipse, meaning it's a ring of fire. It's not quite blocking the entire sun, so it's this gorgeous view, but you only see it down in Antarctica during certain areas and the ocean, which really lends to me that dynamic thought about what the ice and the ocean are experiencing, which we can talk about in just a moment. Therefore, the maximum time will be 12 minutes after the hour, which for UT, Universal Time, and General Mean Time are exactly the same in the winter, which will be at 12 minutes after noon. But here for the East Coast, it'll be 12 minutes after 7 in the morning. For the East Coast, for the West Coast, 12 minutes after 4 a.m. So unless you're an early bird, if you want to really be aware, look at this chart here and you can find out, because you might have your own rituals or invocations or just tuning into the energy, but all of us will experience it. So an annular, did you have a thought about what an annular is before we jump on?
Yeah, well, let's just to talk about a little bit about the basics of eclipses. You can think of them as a time when our identities can temporarily step aside so a deeper intelligence can reorganize the direction. So it's a time when we get to really just sit back and kind of listen to what the universe is telling us. It's not really, eclipse time is not really the best time to try and manifest something. It's taking it all in. It's listening to what the universe is guiding us to. It can accelerate our destinies. There can be identity reboots, soul direction shifts. So there's lots of big potential changes that can emerge from eclipses. With a ring of fire eclipse, there's still that ring of the sun showing. So our will and our identity is still somewhat present, and we do have a little more agency for it to for agency to work with the universe in what we're going to manifest forward. So that's like the beauty of the annular eclipse, the ring of fire. And there can be like a shadow integration without disintegrating into it.
Amanda, it was splendid, totally splendid. I have such takeaways because I need to take more notes, but I wanted to just listen because that energy of rebooting, it is a disruption of light. And it does renew, just as though like a strobe, you look away and when it's all done, somehow maybe you notice different things in life. That's how I've thought of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there can be like a choice point as opposed to being forced to do something with a ring of fire. So we're consciously participating in this.
That's
so
thank you for repeating that. Yes. It's that. And how perfect to be just 3 days before Saturn and Neptune meet exactly at 0 degrees 45 minutes.
It's
Aries.
so aligned. The fire horse year, the Neptune Saturn in Aries conjunction at 0 degrees, this ring of fire eclipse, like it's the universal year one. Like there's so much that's just really flowing together. And when you see that, when you see the different layers coming together, you know that there's going to be a really potent impact with it.
Reminds me of some of the best desserts I've ever had. Dolbosch. I don't know if you've ever had that, but my father came from Norway and somehow we had dolbosch and it's like 7 layers, or else it was a bakery nearby that on rare treats, we'd get this delectable dessert that was way too much work to ever do. And it just layer after layer of just yummy stuff. But our stew, think of a wonderful stew that one makes, like kitchen sink, throw it in and just can't really replicate it. It's just so yummy.
Yeah.
What I notice here, and for folks to realize that in an eclipse, the lunar nodes, which are the meeting points of the path of the sun, nodes means meeting, and so it's the path of the moon and the sun intersect. But during an eclipse, those nodes, the degree stays for 2 months. Now, granted, the minutes change, but very incrementally in 2 months. And it will be at 8 degrees in the mutable Virgo for the south and Pisces for the north, meaning if you have anything mutable at those degrees, it is accentuating it just dramatically. And I would say there's, you can depend what the orb is, but I'm thinking my Mercury is at 11 Gemini. So I just realized in talking, oh my goodness, no wonder my whole mental life is reverberating.
Yeah. It's you can feel that fire horse coming in, and
Yes.
we've all been like shedding as much as we can with the year of the snake, and the snake moves slow, and you can feel this ramp up of coming of the fire horse, and everything that we've been shedding is going to allow us to bring in that much more of the fire horse and this Neptune, Saturn, and Aries, and this eclipse direction for our lives.
Indeed. For a brief moment here, since many times we're always looking at the new and the full moon, but this is a huge event, and we're just going to look at the solar eclipse for this particular session. And on the 3rd of March, Laura Tad and I will do the Virgo lunar moon, because that's just going to be a couple of days from there. So tune into that. And as you can see, the solar eclipse is always a new moon, except that that's when the sun aligns to block the sun because of that meeting of the path. And the lunar eclipse is the same. And there's always 2 pairs, 6 months apart. So this is the first set for this calendar year. And this was at, once again, 28 degrees Aquarius, 50 minutes. The next one will be just for your sake. It'll be on March 3rd. And although we'll be at March 1st to talk about it, but it'll be March 3rd and at 12 degrees Virgo. In this chart, we look at what's retrograde. What, looking from Earth orbit, the planet, is just seemingly to repeat its degrees that wants us to reevaluate. Hygeia has been amazingly, most of the year, if not the year before, I haven't quite checked when it started. It's been difficult to tell when it started because it's month after month. It's an asteroid, but it represents well-being, and it's in Gemini, so it's our mental well-being, what's toxic, what's healthy. And it's also out of bounds, which we will show, but it will go direct as of Valentine's Day at 24 degrees Gemini. And Jupiter is retrograde at 15 degrees, has been for quite a while, since December. And it's in Cancer. As we know, the United States has a Cancer return this year. And of course, it has everything. What does it mean in that sign? Everything about the archetype. So Cancer is about your memories, your family, your traditions, your emotional process of being, our habits. And in Gemini is all what connects us and our communication and etc. And importantly, Uranus is direct motion. It's a long cycle, and we'll get involved with that in a minute.
And just to say about Hygeia, Sue, you mentioned the well-being piece. It's like our hygiene. So there can be, the spiritual, mental, emotional, physical hygiene, all of that. And in Gemini, we're really talking about the mental hygiene. And so we just went through this retrograde period where there was a review of where are we maybe thinking about things that in a way that isn't serving us, maybe in a negative light, or what data are we bringing in that isn't serving us? Are you doom scrolling on socials and it's just bringing you down? That kind of thing. And this becomes really important as we shift into this, the Neptune, Saturn, and Aries conjunction. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, I know. But I just wanted to bring up that point. As it's starting to go direct, it's a good time for us to look at those habits that we have that maybe aren't serving us and kind of clean up that mental hygiene.
Good point, because when it goes direct on February 14th, which is Valentine's, not very far away, it will be right before, of course, this eclipse and the conjunction. But the important thing is it has been out of bounds and that's what I was referencing really, for the longest time, perhaps all year. And it's been amazing. But I scrutinized carefully in Solar Fire, which is a software for astrology, and realize that on March 9th, it goes inbound, meaning we have this delightful time. When it's out of bounds, it's really serving its own nature. It's not considered with other constraints. It really wants to investigate what the awareness of where has our thinking been conditioned to the point that we're not accepting, we're resisting new input, or where our habits emotionally protected us when we were children. I'm just doing a series with Linda Barry that illustrates this, that you recognize you could maybe served you to protect you at that time, but now is no longer useful. And It takes time to bridge that difference, but Hygeia is there to help us. So in other words, when it starts to go direct on Valentine's, we have this period for the next 3 weeks, month, where it'll still be out of bounds to focus on, we have reviewed. Now, how can we start putting this to practice? And then it'll be interesting to see how the thought patterns begin to synchronize into gears to work with the rest.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps I mentioned it, and we have before, but this calendar year numerically adds up to 1. It's a 9, 1 to 9. There's a cycle where you complete things in the year 9 and then jump start it. And we can just look at the fact that look at what we're jump starting. We had the Venus star point with Stormy Grace last month or actually it wasn't Stormy, it was Louise Eddington. I'm getting my people mixed up, but Louise Eddington, who is such a certified with Ariel Gutman. The point is that 16 degrees Capricorn, you can lodge in your chart now and find what is it that you love to build. And it's a fire horse, and this 28 degree solar eclipse is pivotal. Let's talk about the fire horse. I know we will for the next half hour too, but we have about 5 minutes here. It's intense, it's passion, can be volatile, it's impulsive, but it's ambitious and energetic. And the bottom line is too, it loves sociability. It makes buddies, I was reading, wherever it goes. So it collects people. It's very lucky.
Yeah, it's very dynamic. This will be a year of movement. I mean, I don't want to say constant movement because we definitely will need our rest, and taking care of ourselves is going to be a really big piece here in the Fire Horse year. But things will move, and they'll move quickly, and they may shift direction multiple times. And it's just a matter of flowing with it. There's a lot of bold, passionate energy is going to come forward within all of us. And so it's just a matter of like riding it, and keeping ourselves grounded as we do that.
Amanda, I'm thinking here, the fact that it's on an eclipse, because every year it has the moment of the new moon after, I think it's the first or second new moon after the solstice. And next week I have Jen Ing, who has been trained as a yellow hat sect of the Lunar New Moon and can tell us all kinds of things. So watch that. But the fact is this is a solar eclipse that's igniting this powerful dynamic, really, activity. So meaning, what do eclipses do? They cut out for a while. So that's a good rhythm to catch up with, is like, if it's too intense, drop out. Realize that there's something there to be caught with till when you come back.
Yeah. Take care of yourself, because it's a double fire year, and Jen will be able to explain this in more depth than I am, but there's fire in both the heavenly stem and the earthly branch. So two placements of fire, and which just intensifies it.
Yes, because those have to do, I believe, with the year, the month, the day, the week. Good point. We'll get on. Let's look. Yeah. We have a couple of minutes here. There's highlights for this, astrological highlights for the solar eclipse at 28 degrees, 50 minutes, Aquarius, which is in modern times ruled by Uranus. And you and I are evolutionary astrologers, so we love to focus on the modern ruler. Now, it did turn direct just a degree before that at 27 degrees, 32 minutes, Taurus. Uranus did, which is in nature square to this, which we'll talk about later. But it means that because it went direct, it was retrograde, and there's a path. There's always a pre-shadow path to when it goes retrograde, during the retrograde period, and then a post-shadow path. And we're in the post-shadow path. The third time round, to make whatever we thought back in May, what we were hoping to change, and then we worked all during the fall, September through now. That's a long period of time. That's October, November, December, January, February. That's 5 months of retrograde to go, oh, what are we doing? As it went from the very beginnings of Gemini back to the last part of Taurus. And now we're going to repeat through Taurus until May, when it gets back at that same degree of a 1 degree, 28 minutes Gemini, which happens to be also in the sky, a flow with Pluto. So we're transforming enormous things on a immediate, sudden basis. How packed can that be?
Yeah. And one thing to note about Uranus direct in Taurus now, for the last 14-ish years, Uranus has been in Taurus, and it has been asking us to break free from what is stagnant and what is not allowing us to feel safe in our bodies. And this is beautiful preparation for this fire horse, because Uranus is going to go fully into Gemini end of April. And so we're going to be in this, so much air and so much fire astrologically. And so we've all gained lots of lessons with Uranus and Taurus. And now it's time to kind of remember them, embody them, make sure that we keep that grounding as we move forward.
As always, you inspire such thought with me, Amanda, because I'm remembering it is a 14-year cycle, of course. I tend to think of it, it's right on my Mars, to be divulgent. And so I've been really reactivating how am I starting. But the fact is, it took a long time to establish, because that's what Taurus wants. Any of us that have strong Taurus, whether it's your moon, your sun, somewhere it's in your chart, whether it's on a planet or a ruling the house, it takes time to have that solidified, to find form, as the cosmic form. But then, like all things, it can get too stable in a rut and want to shift, because that's the dynamic of the universe, is to have action. And so therefore, yes, to go into some fluidity here, to break away from the conditions of the one view of the standpoint. Very powerful. And I guess this is our last highlight before we get away, which we will in a moment, folks. And we have a lot more to look at the exact chart ahead. But there's always a dispositor. Uranus is in Taurus, 27 degrees, 32 minutes in this chart. And Venus is the dispositor of Uranus. It's Uranus is ruled by Aquarius, is ruled by Uranus, but Uranus being in Taurus, it has a dispositor. And that Venus is in Pisces conjunct this eclipse.
Conjunct the North Node, exactly.
Yeah. So
And
it's wanting us to, yes, go ahead. What does that want?
Venus is exalted in Pisces, which means it's one of its highest, best placements. And so there can be deep compassion, deep imagination, sensitivity, creativity, and it kind of embodies this creative surrender. And so this is conjunct that North Node. This is what we're moving towards. And
it's
so being in that creative surrender and into the love principle of the universe, love consciousness,
the unity that there can be, not that we're homogenous as one, but that it fits just as it does with glass in a vessel, that you're going to drink the water, or there's a relationship that works in combination. And if the glass is dirty, you clean it. There's a Virgo South Node, but it's useful, it's constructive. If it's too detailed and you're maybe hyper worried that, there's got to be an extra germ in there. Well, no, maybe not. Maybe that little germ is actually helping you homeopathic wise to strengthen. And I know I'm talking abstract, but that's kind of the dynamics.
And like the intro says, we're all singular drops in the ocean. We're separate and we're all together.
Yes. So we will cut away here for a moment and come back, and we'll talk more about all of this, because there is this wonderful conjunction ahead. And what about this chart? Let's look at that. Thank you. We'll be returning with Amanda Pierce and myself, Talk Cosmos. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the Yang period of Aquarius, ruled modernly by Uranus and Saturn in traditional astrology by the ancients. By leaving a cycle based on governing structures through both man-made and universal laws, Aquarius breaks established patterns, permitting the energy of freedom, just as its ruling planet Uranus spins on its side and orbits backwards. As a fixed air sign represented by the water bearer pouring the spirit of cosmic energy, Aquarius seeks to find like-minded, intuitively aligned souls to connect in social groups for the elevation and improvement of all.
This is psychological astrologer Dr. Laura Todd. Please join me, Michelle Fleming, and Edja Caleb for Evolutionary Training's annual Goddess Awakening Retreat in Playa El Coco, Nicaragua. Enjoy daily yoga, well-being workshops, melt classes, baby sea turtles, and more. To register, go to mythicsky.com.
Talk Cosmos ignites insightful conversations to awaken heart and soul consciousness with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click their like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. You can listen to earlier podcasts since 2018, either on most podcast carriers or under the video tab on Talk Cosmos YouTube. To join our expedition and find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com and launch your week into the cosmic wonder.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to newprosupplements.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, February 15th, it's Behavior Training and Healing Sunday with me, and talk with your human or animal loved ones on this side or the other, and personal readings with Natasha Venter. Hope you can join us and plan to call in for your questions for either one of us or for a personal reading with Natasha. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Some people know a good thing when they hear it. Alternative Talk 1150.
Hi, here we are again. I keep muting myself. It's a, pardon me with this. We're doing a little changes in the backstage. No matter the eclipse, once again, I just related to that. So Saturn and Neptune will be at the world point, as we've mentioned, at 0 degrees Aries. It's actually at 45 minutes into it. But this hasn't happened for 6,361 years, because I also looked back and saw that it happened in 4,361 BC, March 3rd, if anybody's interested. Meaning that was a consciousness shift. You know, it was before the wheel, before writing, but there were villages. There were people had the Ice Age, it was Neolithic times. People have been shifting from being nomadic to agriculture, tilling the ground. That changed everything and began that preparation of civilization, which happened about 3,500 BC in the Mesopotamia valley between the two rivers, Euphrates and Tigris rivers. It's always so important to me somehow. And meaning that at this moment in this chart, Saturn and Neptune are so close. They're just 3 days away from being center stage together. So Saturn will be at 0 degrees 23 minutes and Neptune will be at 0 degrees 38 minutes. And it's 15-minute orb. So they are talking strong.
Yeah, they're not exactly conjunct at the eclipse, but it's I don't know that we could tell a difference really. It's so close. It's so close. So it really is a big part of this eclipse chart. And when you think about Neptune being in Aries, it's Neptune is dreams. And so our dreams are bolder, they're pioneering, they could be impulsive. And there's going to be a strong focus on our self-expression and courage and identity with this. And Saturn coming in, Neptune it's not visible to the naked eye. And so it's beyond our consciousness, really, is what that's saying. And we need the planets that we can see to kind of help bring that into our consciousness. And Saturn is the last planet that we can visibly see. And so it really helps us. It's going to help us ground these dreams into reality. And it's going to show us where, in very Saturn fashion, where we need to put in the hard work, because that's what Saturn's about. So there's a lot of potential of really manifesting these dreams forward when we're working with that Saturn principle.
Yes. In fact, you bring to mind the fact that we see the signs. When I say signs, it might be new for some people, but you recognize that what we're feeling and desiring can be amplified through a conversation, through a billboard, through a book, through many different means. And it's that relationship with that unknown factor beyond the consciousness, such as you're saying, that's represented by Neptune, that goes into the mystical or the spiritual or the divinity, or however you want to look at it. And it's empowering all of us. First off, too, if nothing else, remember, Mars is going to be for 14 years while Neptune is in Aries, the messenger. It's going to be telling us. And
Good
Aries
point.
wants honesty. When it comes to vibrational astrology that I'm studying with Linda Barry, David Cochran has discovered that that's really what Aries wants. It wants to be understood where it's at, where it's coming from, and the honesty. Be honest. So in other words, be the truth, be at the moment, what is there. And so that's partly us taking within ourselves, going deep to find out the work of.
Yeah. Well, and it being at a world point of 0 degrees Aries, this means that it really is going to permeate our whole world. And we're going to see it in many different ways, many different cultures.
Exchanges.
It's going to really impact us fully in this.
And a little start here and a little start there. Just to bring up, because that we did have the Capricorn Venus star point on the 4th. That would be on the YouTube channel still, of course. And that next week will be the Fire Horse Lunar New Year with Jen Ng, as I mentioned. And then the end of the month, we'll be going back to looking at this Saturn-Neptune impactful vibrations with Linda Barry and Rob Passetti, looking at exactly what are the primary consciousness factors that we will all be working with. That's always a fascinating way. We do that for the solstice and the equinox, but this is a monumental event to check in with. Because it's the moon, Laura Tad with Mythic Sky created a moon journal. You can start it anytime. You can find it at her website, mythicsky.com. We have a sponsorship arrangement, and this is for your benefit. So check that out. Let's get to our solar eclipse at 28 degrees, 50 minutes Aquarius. It's on the 17th of February and Eastern time, 7:01 a.m. It has so many pairs of planets that are exactly at the same degree. There are multitude ones, and it's also stretching just in this one segment of the sky between Aquarius to largely to Aries. And the rulers, amazingly, of the lunar nodes are powerfully Mercury and Venus. Well, let's look at this. Help me out.
Yeah. So just starting off, since it's a solar eclipse, means that it's a new moon. So it's a new moon eclipse. And so we've got the moon and the sun conjunct together, and this is a fresh start. And in that Aquarius energy, which there can be like new sparks of insight that are going to shift our direction. So look for those, especially that it's given that it's square Uranus. And this is like a huge piece to this eclipse. Like there could be sudden shifts and changes and directions and opportunities that come forward with this.
Yes, things in the present moment that need to be dealt with. And because those sudden things might be connected to things that are very firmly rooted in our hearts, in our souls, in our daily life. And it means that we want to take some action with it. So be kind to yourself. Let's go back looking at some of this. The fact that our heart of Venus, as we talked about, is right, we're connected with what philosophies, what's our belief systems. I think that's so important with this entire energetic thrust that we're developing. It's not going to be overnight, but we're going to be thinking about how our thoughts, how are they connected with, and how does our heart work with the wholeness of it? What are we evading? What details do we need to readjust? It's just huge.
Yeah. Well, I love where you're going with this. And I just want to call out as well that this big grouping of planets all together is a bundle pattern. And so there's just really concentrated energy in specific areas in Aquarius, Pisces, Aries. So wherever those signs are in your charts, it'll be 3, maybe 4 houses in your life that are really going to feel this impact. And we're working with thinking, feeling, and doing here. So the thinking is the Aquarius, and that's where the innovation can come in, and possibly some unexpected or unconventional approaches and looking forward. And then the Pisces, this is the imagination, the intuition, the dreaming, the creativity, the following the heart, like Sue, you were talking about. And then Aries, that action, self-assertion, starting the new beginnings. So we're taking all of this thinking and this feeling and putting all of that into action with the Aries. And so it's like this big momentum forward, and it's all kind of going to gel together. But those are the different components of it.
Like a mosaic. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So true. And the very fact that Jupiter here is in Cancer. So look at where Cancer is in your chart, because that will be.
Yeah. And there you go. muted for a second. You're back.
Yeah. And here, the asteroids have some importance. There is this strong energy with our heart and our direction, as we've talked about again and again. Let's really try to mitigate where our relationships are in regard to this philosophy that people are recognizing. It's not that they're bad or whatever. It's just not working to the strength of the path that they're working on. I always remember, if I'm going to leave something, leave it with love, because otherwise it comes back again until I can find that part of myself to feel the love of it. And by love, it means just understand the nature of it without trying to control, you know.
Yeah, and Juno is our contracts. So what contracts are up for review now, and do they need to be rehauled, or do they need to just completely be thrown out? So this is part of that potential trajectory shift of an eclipse, and reviewing that. And Jupiter's coming in and saying, I want to provide some abundance to you, some blessings to you, but you might need to make some space, some new space.
Isn't that right? Which I will say here, with when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Wayne Dyer, what a grand soul he was, no longer living, yet all his work is through Hay House, which is a wonderful publisher and metaphysical that Louise Hayes started. And he is known as the father of motivation, among many other things. But I brought these two graphics that I work with AI. I give them prompts. But over the periods of times, I must have given them different prompts, because look at these two different energetic personifications of exactly the same thing, which was Saturn and Neptune at Aries. So it was just kind of a fun way to look at, wow, you know, just one way to look at things. I'll go back to our other slide.
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to mention about this eclipse is I checked out the Sabian symbol for the sun and moon. So the degree is 28 degrees 50 minutes, which would translate to 29 degrees in the Sabian symbol. You always round up. So the Sabian symbol for this degree is a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis, which just makes so much sense, because as we were shifting from that snake energy, you know, it's like and I mentioned this in the last our last talk, it does feel like we've been in like this primordial goo, or this like liminal space. And this is the period where we've kind of been, where we now get to kind of emerge from it. And this is the start of it. And so allowing for that new identity to come forward, that's what this Neptune-Saturn conjunction is about. Just really tuning to that identity that we want to be, and dreaming that forward and putting that into reality. This is just, everything feels like it is so lined up together, and I'm loving it.
Yes, that really supports this idea of the last aspect, where it's called a grand mini trine. What it is that there's a flow between energies, and in between there's a connecting force, which happens to be our grand Hygeia of mental well-being, as we said in Gemini. And it's going to the altar of Vesta, that's exactly at the same degree, 19 degrees of Aquarius with Mars, which moves quicker, because these asteroids have like 300, 200, near 300 years orbit. But it means that our actions are being taken. What is really benefiting the altar of our life? You know, in ancient times, it's where they actually put in front of the hearth replications of that. But in our souls, in our heart, we know that flame wants to be alive, and it's being connected by that Venus with the North Node of the unity of what are we ignoring? Perhaps we could, no, it's not. Break away, Sue.
Chiron, right?
Yes, Chiron and Eris. Like, what have we left out? What have we excluded? Let's include all of us. That's Eris. With Chiron, what is it that we're not recognizing as our wound? All we need to do is put attention to it and use it for the greater good. It serves us and serves others. So that goes right along with what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Really tuning to that that fire of our hearts, and really putting that heart fire into this dream that we're manifesting.
I'm going to show us something just for a few moments, and then we're going to just do it very briefly, because I know, Amanda, you had some thoughts about past years of the fire horse, and I want to hear that. But just to remember, or to remind people, it is a 1 year. We're beginning things. There is this amazing 6-month first of time, according to Steve Judd, that we've ever had. And I was noticing it, and I was really happy to have it validated by Steve Judd of England when he was talking to Rick some months ago, that he had not seen this before. So I trust that my memory that it happened in 2024 is perhaps not true. I need to check. But it's the same for 6 months, 28 degrees, which next month will finish this cycle. But what's happening here in the US? Well, because it reflects that life is above as below with the Hermetic code and the Emerald Tablet. And pardon me, I shifted it so my little graphics are wrong. But Jupiter is within orb because it's retrograde of our sun. It started right on our thinking pattern of Mercury. So we're in a thinking pattern of what's the facts, what's the information, and what's the new philosophy. And how are we going to put that into our soul? That's one energy that we're just working on. The other is that this T-square is with the eclipse nodes, which are going to stay at 8 degrees, remember, with our Mars or with our Uranus, rather, of like what's happening right now, the sudden changes. So it's a very mercurial, it's all in mutable signs. So it's a shifting energy that we're experiencing and doing. And along with that, the sun, the eclipse is right on our moon, meaning emotionally, we're having to reframe what we think of community, of our networking, and all of that. So without any political answers here, it's like what is happening is honest. We could say, as my mother would say, we come by it honestly. It's an enormous experience. And for those that really want to look at it further, which we may look at in later episodes, and I'm not going to even get involved, but it was a process of forming the United States. That was when we established our revolution, saying, hey, this is happening. And then when George Washington actually was inaugurated, was that final act, according to Campion, who does these wonderful astrological charts, that created the United States out of the 13, as he says, rebellious colonies. And you can look here at how many signature points are being touched on, meaning we need to change the way we look at things, and then the things we look at will change, because that's the whole process, is that, yes, we had the right idea, but are we actually practicing what we preach? Who knows? It's a process. Let's get to what you were talking about, Amanda, and that was some history. I would love to hear more of your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, we have just a couple minutes, so I'll try to make it brief. There are two big years that the fire horse has had in history where we have like good information. 1906, and this was the year that the San Francisco earthquake happened, and there were days and days of uncontrolled fires that happened after that. Literally burning. This is a literal interpretation of the fire horse. And so there was one of the themes that you'll see in fire horse years is liberation from dead structures. And so entire systems and neighborhoods were wiped out. And that also led to like building codes shifting dramatically, new standards for urban planning, and cities being rebuilt for the future and not based in the past. And this is a good example of fire horse energy, of the courage to act without consensus. We see that a lot too. And where emergency responders had to make rapid decisions and just go. And that's very instinctual Aries energy, right? So that lines up with this Neptune Saturn energy that we're coming into. Shifting to 1966, this is where we had the start of big cultural revolutions in China, escalation of Vietnam War, the explosion of civil rights, feminist and anti-war movements, and again, liberation from dead structures where racial segregation laws were challenged, gender roles were openly rejected, and traditional authorities like the government, the church, the patriarchy started to be questioned. And courage to act without consensus. Again, this is people stopped waiting for someone to like say go ahead. They just started doing things. So these are some of the pieces that we should expect to see in this year.
Very intriguing. Both those years are so monumental. And of course, with 1966, that was when Uranus and Pluto were in Virgo, and we have we're approaching a time when they will be trine, and that will be later in this year and in 2027. So that's ahead of us as we're working, meaning there's a flow to our transformation.
Which indicates more flow this time around than last time.
Yes, indeed. Meaning it will be, we give everybody a chance here. Take heart, look at your charts, see where this is happening, and be aware of that child part, of the Cancer part in Jupiter that wants to reframe who you are, how you are, so you can live your dreams. And thank you so much. Thank you, Amanda.
Beautiful.
Thank you for this vibrant and insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her guests awaken consciousness by connecting heart and soul consciousness patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.
The views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers and are not